Hello, good morning, everybody. I'm Matthieu, also known as Matthieu, and supervised theory online. And then
I'm Baptiste Crespy founder of fxhash.
And I am Florian. I'm a technical project manager for Rarible, and I'm handling everything specific to Tezos.
So yeah, so each one of us, small presentation about building an NFT marketplace on Tezos. Want to add something else?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. So yeah, I'm a software and cloud engineer working at Objkt on the infrastructure, and I will be talking a bit about our experience developing on Tezos. So first, right now, Objkt is the largest NFT marketplace, which is part of our goal to index all of Tezos NFTs. We also aim to be a community-owned marketplace, and I will touch just a bit on that afterward, and to be a good Tezos citizen as well by participating into the ecosystem and in Tezos itself. Started as Objkt.bid in June 2021, and at first it was only an offer contract on top of Objkt NFTs. And around 3 months later, the three founders of the company created Objkt.com, and they created the foundation of the current website. It was unchanged from the UI almost, but big change on the back end. At that point, there was only 5 collections indexed, so Objkt, Calamint, and a few others. In November, we released our min form, and at that time, we grew to 5 developers and 1 curator. And then a big internal milestone was the new indexer rewrite. So in 2022 February, we deployed a new indexer that allows us to scale way more. I will be discussing that just after. In April, I did join the company to work on infrastructure and automation. And today we have around 3 million tokens indexed, 360,000 NFT minted on our contracts, and around 7 million contract calls since the beginning of Objkt. And now we are 8 people working almost full time. So indexing, it's really the name of the game for us. As an NFT marketplace, we have to index everything and show it. And right now it's been around 60,000 contracts, and 50% of them are FA2. And after that, there is a lot of others like listings, TZ profile, this kind of contracts that are not FA2. The FA2 is the standard that's used for NFT most of the time. So indexing, we started with, like most people, with Objkt or DeepDup. In our case, it was a modified Objkt, which is based on DeepDup. And at first, it was only for the hand collection. Around the autumn, we started to have stability issue, and we also figured out that to scale to 60,000 contracts, we needed something else than DeepDup. So we started in November to write our own indexer from scratch. In Elixir in that case. In December, we were still using Objkt, around 1 million token indexed there, but also 2 to 3 downtime per week of the indexer, which started to be a pain for the only person managing that at that time. Then, February, the new indexer, we reached around 1.7 million tokens, and we basically eliminated all of our stability problem. And right now, we are working on scaling the indexer again with some major feature incoming. So all of that would not have been possible without the team, the Baking Bag team, and the Tezos Foundation who support them financially. We based everything on TZKT. It's a really, really good indexer, and that's the source for every Tezos data we have. Indexing is pretty hard when you try to index all of Tezos NFT, because there is a blockchain as well, of course, but as Arthur was saying earlier, everything is on IPFS, all the metadata, all the artifacts. Then, of course, metadata, it's a standard in the sense that we say, oh, you should do that, but that doesn't mean people are actually doing what they should be doing. So you have to fix a lot of edge cases, reconstruct metadata in some cases, and generate valid thumbnail for your website, that kind of thing. So you have your data, you have to show it to your user. And as any marketplace, the speed of the interface matters a lot. And so downloading everything from IPFS every time you want to show a token, it's not really a viable solution. You have to have the classical CDN caches all the way down. And as I was saying, generating thumbnails exponentially, this kind of thing. We actually created a whole services internally just to manage token uploading and thumbnail generation. And yeah, that was also 3 to 4 months of work. Then you have to deal with every token format ever. So from the classical JPEG and PNG to PDF, EPUBs, WAV, sound, MP3, whatever, 3D file as well. Your UI was asked to show all of that. So yeah, quite a lot of work. And of course, you cannot really specialize in any token. So you cannot have, well, it's harder, say, to specialize in showing WAV file correctly with playlists or this kind of thing when you are a generic marketplace. Then you have interactive token, and he will talk about that a bit more, I guess, which is basically unverified code that you are running on your marketplace and distributing to your users. So security issue welcomes. And you have to, it takes the time to explain why do I have to tick a box to run interactive tokens? Why doesn't it run just like that? So your user have to be educated on a lot of concepts and on all of Web3 concepts through your interface. That's the main point of this is the UI is really the abstraction over the chain that the user will be using, you will be interacting with. And in our case, we generally look for a Web 2 kind of user experience, so sleek UI, really quick to load, this kind of thing, but over all of Web 3 concepts. And when you are used to usual e-commerce, you have password reset, you have refund when your transaction goes wrong or something like that, which doesn't exist here. There is no password reset for your wallet. Sorry, you lost just all of your NFT right now. And your user have to be educated, about all those risks, which is a big piece of work. On that front, we want to shout out to the paper teams. Arthur talked a bit about them just earlier. They are the creator of the Beacon SDK and maintaining the Beacon network. If your wallet interacts with a website, you are most likely using their work. So really thank you for your contribution on the Tezos ecosystem. I don't know if there is some people from the paper teams here. And that led me to participating in the ecosystem. So Tezos is a pretty decentralized chain, and we think we have to keep it that way. So now that we are in a bit more stable position, we want to invest a bit more into the ecosystem. And the first thing to always keep in mind is that blockchain are fully open databases, so anybody can do anything with your contract and the data that is there. So you have to discuss. That's the best way to collaborate between humans. You can of course just do whatever with our data online. We don't really care, but if you want to collaborate with us, it may be best to first discuss. So one of those collaboration with other platforms is the Theia Objkt listing sharing. So if you go on Theia, you will see Objkt listing. And if you go on Objkt, you will see Theia listing as well. So if you buy a Theia token, a Theia listing from Objkt, they gain their fee. And the other way around. We have other collaboration in the pipeline. It's a constant work in progress. We also work a lot with different artists, providing them smart contract development, website hosting for drops or things like that, sometimes rendering 3D files into videos, this kind of thing. We have Kablin and Wise from our team that are working on onboarding new artists and new collectors on Tezos, so trying to expand the NFT ecosystem as a whole. For governance participation, I'm happy to announce that we are a backer since 2 weeks ago, something like that. But we are not a public backer, so don't delegate anything to us. Or do, but thank you. There will be interaction between the baking part and the DAO later on, but right now there is nothing. So don't do that. Oh, again, thanks. And finally, we have the Objkt API, which is right now the only dev-oriented tool that we are providing. And yeah, so the API is available at data.objkt.com. It's the same data that we are using internally. You have access to the same information as us. It's completely free. There is no API token needed, and the limits will be enough for any application. You are welcome to build whatever you want, of course, but if you do subscribe to the mailing list for deprecation warning, it's only for deprecation warning, really. We don't really care to sell you anything. And that's the only way for us to warn you if we break the API. It did happen already in the past. It will happen in the future because we don't want the public API to prevent us to move forward. So subscribe to that. In the future, we will also feature projects using our API, and we are also working on fee sharing for projects using our API. And about fee sharing, let's quickly jump to the future. So as I was saying, for the API user, but we are also working, it's a work in progress for other platforms to have fee sharing between platforms. The DAO, as I was saying, and the tokenomics, so I have no announcement to make. It's a work in progress. We are in no rush because we want the things to be really stable and to be legally sound in Switzerland where we are based. That part is maybe the hardest part. A lot of people working on that. Then, yeah, main thing from the UI perspective, we are trying to improve token discoverability. And finally, we will have foundation-style auction. That's something we are working on right now. And if you want to propose features or vote for other features, please go to roadmap.objkt.com. We do use that as a guide. Sometimes it doesn't align with our internal priority, but most of the time we try to implement the most voted thing. And finally, we are still growing, so we will be joined by a new front-end developer at the end of the summer, and we are always interested in good profiles. So if you want to contact us, discuss anything, or work with us in collaboration way or anything else, this is the email. There is only one. Come say hi. And that's all for me. So thank you very much for your attention. I would like to thank the TezDev organizer as well, and all the team working on the Tezos ecosystem. I cannot name them all, but I saw Nomadic Labs already. I saw some people there that I know of. So thank you very much for your attention. Yeah, I don't know.
Voilà.
Yes. Okay. You are here.
Hey. Okay, can you hear me? Yeah, cool. So I'm going to make a rough introduction on building a platform on Tezos. Basically, a little bit of the history behind fxhash. I am a generative artist. I got into art through programming. And at some point, I wanted to post my generative stuff on blockchain. I used to experiment with Iketnunk, post video stuff and everything. But it lacked some stuff that was on art blogs, on other platforms as well. And I really didn't like the ideology behind having a gate at the entrance of a platform. So I say, OK, let's build my own platform. And I built FX the next month. I looked a little bit into the options, like which blockchain should I pick. And the first point was the community. I think we can all agree on the Tezos community is really amazing. I made so many friends there, like in the fraction of a second. And yeah, it's been a very great experience in 1 month. And to me, it felt great to build on this chain just for the community. But also, we had to look on the technical aspects of the chain. And it's great. It's like one of the best chain, in my opinion, because it has upgradability. Because we know that in the future, whatever problems we may face, they can be solved at some point, which is very important for blockchains. And some lack this feature. Also, I put sustainability. Yeah, I don't remember why. Oh, yeah, because it's great in terms of energy. It's very efficient. And something very important, like we don't want the future of mankind to be not working efficiently, right? So when I wanted to build FX, I was a little bit lost within all this Web3 technology. I knew it a little bit, reading some papers now and then, but how does it work to build a DApp for a blockchain? So I started investigating on all the components, indexer, API, how to interact with smart contracts, and started to learn also smart contracts. And honestly, it was a bit intimidating, right? You're manipulating money in the beginning, so you're a little bit scared of what can go wrong. So there was the first step of overcoming the fear of what your algorithms are going to manipulate. But once you realize its numbers, it's rather easy to think properly in terms of algorithms and make sure that you build stuff securely and you build stuff by designing it carefully before implementing it, of course. Testing and reading the documentation, of course. Again, this is something that needs to be said. During my experience as a builder on the chain, on Tezos and on fxhash, something that was incredible is the wholesome community. And I'm going to say it once again because it's very important. Basically, I could only work with one hand, so I was a bit slow in implementing stuff, and it was a bit hard sometimes. And there were lots of bugs in the beginning. And when you release a product, people usually don't expect the product to not be working very well. And it was the case. And community was saying, it's okay, take your time, we'll be there tomorrow. They were very supportive and they were very forgiving of the mistakes that were made. And I think it's very important when you're a solo builder that's trying to build a solo project to know that the community can back you up even if you fail. There is room for experimenting, there is room for interacting with the community, keep building, keep iterating slowly on the features, and they will be there to support you. And I think that's something very important when you're trying to build a platform on any kind of ecosystem. Moreover, the low fees on Tezos make it easy to deploy new smart contracts if you need to implement some kind of moderation system and you're experimenting with this moderation system, because it's sometimes hard to know if it's going to work properly as intended. So it's very great to have the ability to iterate with flexibility on the chain. I mean, I think without these key elements, FX wouldn't be up now, because I mean, we were closed for 2 days sometimes, we were closed for 1 week, we had Christmas close on the platform, there were many things that went wrong. Yeah, it's a little bit of a small moment when I realized that it wasn't really a small-scale project anymore. I used to host FX on a small dyno on Heroku, and everything was crashing. Like, I received 120 requests per second at some time, and I was like, whoa. It got bigger, right? So time to scale it up. And, it's a dramatic pause, but it's just that I forgot what I wanted to say. Oh yeah, I try to build FX as a framework rather than some precise tools that we only do one thing. So that's the core intent behind every decision that I used to make when we begin and now that we make together when we build the tool. The idea is that we want to give as much control as possible to the artist. So every feature is designed not to solve one problem, but try to think of all the other problems that could arise from the implementation of the feature. Trying to think about edge cases and everything. How can we support the artist in the best possible way and give them as much tool as they need to experiment, because that's what the chain allows as well, experimenting. And again, giving too much control sometimes results in a UI that can't be used because there are too many options. So we had to find the balance between usability and flexibility, try to find how can we give as much control as possible while having a fluent UI and UX. It was very important in the design, and it will remain the same for everything that we build, for FX or for the Tezos ecosystem. Yes, so this is a schema of the technical of the backend. It's very rough, okay? I made this really quick. It's just to show you that our platform requires to generate metadata off-chain. We need to generate the previews of the project. We need to sign the metadata, send it on-chain. And because of that, we had lots of requirements. We needed IPFS to be as fast as possible. we needed to serve images as fast as possible, as any NFT platform needs to. And as we grew, we needed to have some sort of load balancing. And we even have our own RPC endpoint because we were crashing the public endpoints when there were big drops. And we decided to offset this load onto our own backend. And it makes it easier for the whole ecosystem, hopefully, and also us, so we don't crash anymore. It's just to show you that there are lots. And microservices, there's a big thing there. It's like 10 programs running all the time with multiple instances in some cases to make it run smoothly. Because the end goal is, as you said, try to build some sort of Web2 experiences for Web3 application. And we have to go through this Web2 infrastructure to release it properly. And to give you a rough overview of how much does it cost for if you want to build an application at this scale, it's roughly $10,000 per month to have this. And CloudFront, so this, which is caching and serving the images, takes half of that. So it's really a lot. But it's required if you want your images to load fast and everything. It's something to consider when building a project. Another point that's very important for me, and I think is very important to anyone in the Tezos ecosystem, is that we are trying maybe to carry our projects with integrity, make sure that we don't release feature to make many money out of it, but rather try to build sustainable and interesting tools for the ecosystem in the long term. This is something that's dear to my heart, and I always fail pronouncing this one, but it's something that's very interesting for me and important for me. Try to make it so that 10 years from now, what we build now isn't going to backstab the artist on the long term. It's very important. Also, and that's what I like the most for the upcoming years maybe, it's anticipating the needs of the future and innovating in the gen art field. So we started building with Blockhouse and some other actors of the ecosystem, some live minting experiences. You maybe have seen it at Art Basel. But this is only the beginning. Like it's right now, you just scan something and you have a piece. We want to bring interactivity into this. We want to bring Kinect sensors. We want to, bring the art space into the real world because we can do it, and I think it will be a nice convergence of many ecosystems and great for people to engage with blockchains in the future. Also, it's going to be so really fun because we can basically build anything, put MIDI controllers everywhere, and I'm really excited for that. This is going to be one of our major focus. So if you want to work on this kind of project, we are looking mostly for backend developers, so it's okay. But yeah, we are looking for people to work on any aspects of this project. It will be a pleasure to meet you. It will be a pleasure maybe to work with you. Feel free to reach out to any of these, maybe jobs if you want a job, and talk to me or, yeah. Well, thank you, and thanks for organizing this event, and thanks for these blue walls. It's amazing.
Okay, so it seems I'm the last one now. I'm Florian. I'm working for Rarible. It's hard to go after these guys because that's two of the major NFT marketplaces on Tezos, and we are the smallest players right now. But we intend to change that a little bit. Oh, merci. So basically, I will just start to explain what is Rarible, basically, because I think for a lot of people on Tezos, it's still we are still not like a major player. We're still not really known. So maybe I will manage to explain a bit what we are, what is Rarible protocol, how we built the Tezos architecture, and how the actual Rarible global architecture is built. And then I'll try to extend on how to do it yourself, and maybe why you should do it with Rarible, because we are a protocol trying to abstract as much as possible on the complexity that we all mentioned here. So yeah, let's go. So what is Rarible? Rarible is, of course, it's a marketplace. It's an NFT marketplace. We are multi-chain. Right now we have Tezos, Ethereum, Flow, Polygon, and just recently Solana. And on top of this marketplace, we have also what we call the protocol. So the Rarible protocol is basically every component that you could imagine in an NFT marketplace, like the SDK to interact with the chain from your front end, the API to create all the data for orders, NFTs, and all that. And of course, the smart contracts. That could be just the NFT smart contracts for the different standards that we have in Ethereum, but also on Tezos and other chains. And of course, the indexer. So basically, the protocol, it will allow you to access the NFTs, their data, metadata, and of course, everything related to the orders that we manage on our site. And also, since you can reuse also our contracts, you can have access to our liquidity and build your own marketplace based on that. So the goal of the protocol is to abstract all the complexity of the usual NFT marketplace and provide a kind of set of tools to allow you to focus on what's essential. So the user experience, for example, or the NFTs themselves. So now let's focus a little bit on the protocol and on the technical side. So as I said earlier, we are a multi-chain protocol. So that means that for every chain that we support, we have the full set of components. So we have a dedicated SDK for interacting with the chain, dedicated set of smart contracts, API, and indexers. So for all of them, we have this specific environment. And at the end, we have a multi-chain API, which is aggregating all this data and providing a kind of standardized open API documentation to allow you to access everything from just one single API. So you can have access all the data from all the chains with just a single call on our API. So everything is free and open source. So all our SDK indexes, basically everything related to protocol is completely free and open source. And you can use it as you want, basically. And so for all of that, we have also events for marketplaces to be able to refresh themselves when they want dynamically to avoid useless queries and to basically spam the different part of the infrastructure. And we receive all the events directly from the chain from our different indexes. So how we built. It seems the schema got a little dizzy. So basically, at the beginning, when we started Rarible on Tezos, we had kind of a rush. So we decided to work with an external team from the Tezos Ecosystem, which is Functory. You can actually meet them in the conference. So they were super helpful and built us an indexer that could index all the NFTs on chain and also our NFT orders. And so they built that for us. It was kind of the same positioning as Objkt, while we wanted to index everything that was available directly on chain. And they did that specifically for us. But after that, since it was coded in OCaml, and sorry, but we are not OCaml experts, so we couldn't actually take back the maintenance of the project. So we decided to reuse most of the, tools of the ecosystem. And that's the same as what Objkt is using in that case. And I can't thank enough the Baking Bad team. I think this is one of the greatest and most skilled team in the ecosystem. If you compare the indexes that you have on Tezos compared to other chains, like for example Ethereum, just comparing Better Call Dev to Etherscan or TZKT to Etherscan, you will love Tezos and you will hate, and you won't be able to work with Etherscan after that. So definitely the tools that you have on the indexing side, but not only. I will mention other tools later that we use that are just critical to us. But basically, we use TZKT for indexing everything related to generic and standard data, like ownerships, balances, NFT data. They recently announced the support of the FA2 and FA1.2, every tokens basically. So for us, it was a tremendous help because it basically abstracted most of the complex work that you need to do on the indexing. So this is why we wanted to focus on the TZKT solution. And for everything that is specific to our marketplace, but also to others, we focused on DeepDub for everything related to specific indexing. So that means that our marketplace basically is relying on DeepDub for managing the order listings, cancels, transfers, and all these kind of things. So that's it for us. Basically our SDK is relying on the Tezos API, which is doing the aggregation between TZKT and the indexing of the orders. And this SDK is also the one which is interacting with the chain. So from our SDK, you can mint, burn, transfer, list, and then very soon we will also support bids, auctions, floor bids, and all that stuff. But everything is done through the SDK for on-chain interactions. So now we'll do some, I would say, advertisement for Rarible and why maybe you should build your own marketplace Rarible. So as I said, but also as like the other marketplaces said earlier, I didn't know what to use, collaborators, yeah. Basically, I don't think we emphasize enough how hard and complex it is to build an NFT marketplace. There are so many technical components, so many variables, so many things that you need to take care of. It's a huge amount of work, and it's also very expensive. So it's something which is not trivial, and depending on the constraints that you want to have for your marketplace, you need to take that into account when you want to launch. And if you build on top of the Rarible protocol, that means that you can go very quick, because the only thing that you will have to focus on will be the smart contracts, if you have some specific needs, or you can even reuse our set of smart contracts, because they are free and open source. So either you can use our infrastructure, like API, SDK, indexers, and contracts, but since everything is open source, you can also fork it, or maybe use it as is, and basically build your own marketplace based on that, by just being a fork, basically. So that could be a huge like bootstrap tool to be able to go to market much faster than other solutions. And as we mentioned earlier, we rely on the industry state-of-the-art indexing with the Baking Mat solutions. We also rely on Takito. I think it's also one of the best libraries that you can have. Like it doesn't have to be shy compared to what you could have with Web3.js for Ethereum, all these kind of things. Takito is a huge solution which is tremendously helping us on every interaction with the chain. And also Beacon, I would like to mention also, yeah, Kukai, which is great for onboarding people because you have social logins and all that. And yeah. But basically you have a huge set of tools that you can use from the ecosystem. And it can abstract a lot of work and a lot of complexity from things that you would need to rebuild yourself. And yeah, our advice is definitely use these tools when they are available. And also why you should build a Rarible is because, well, Tezos is still not necessarily very mature on some aspects. For example, the royalties for the NFTs, that's a tricky problem. For example, Objkt has a pattern, fxhash has a pattern, Calamint has a different pattern. Basically, every marketplace that you can find on Tezos has a specific pattern. So if you want to support everything, that means that you have to also support the different royalties pattern. And since we want to be very generic, we want to support all that. So we do this work for you, and by relying on Rarible, you will be able to have all this complexity abstracted, and we can actually provide royalties for all the NFTs on Tezos, and I think we are probably the only marketplace that can provide that at the moment. So if we focus on the different components, I will wait a little bit. So if you build on Rarible, there will be some specific components. Oh, it's back, perfect. So here on the schema, everything which is darker is the components that are specific, that you need to develop yourself for your own needs. Oh, nice update. So yeah, basically, if you build on Rarible, there will be, of course, some specific components, but it will be much smaller than actually building everything yourself. And in that case, that would be the front end, back end if you need some, but in some cases, you won't even need a back end. Just having the UX and everything on chain can be enough. And the smart contracts if you need it. But if it's just, I would say, a regular marketplace, in that case, you can rely directly on the Rarible infrastructure. So yeah, you can actually see through the transparency a little bit. Okay, so that's it if you want to build it with Rarible. Basically, you can rely on everything that we have. So yeah, just to recap, the protocol is SDK, API, indexer, and smart contracts. And if you want to build with us, we can provide it for you, and you don't need to build it yourself. But if you decide to do it from scratch and basically build every component yourself. That means that you need to manage the interaction between your front end and the chain and the wallets. The indexer, you need to build it yourself. Even though you will rely on some common tools, you still have to build I would say, what will be specific for your marketplace. So the indexer needs to be built. The API, of course, needs to be built on top of your indexer for your specific business and like your own specific needs. And that means that you will have to maintain all these components. And I think we didn't necessarily spoke about that, but Tezos is great because it evolves, but Tezos is also very annoying because it evolves. For a project like us, that means that every 3 months we need to take like very good care that something will not break. And for those that saw that, we stopped Tezos on Rarible for 2 weeks because of the last upgrades, because we were going to migrate to our new infrastructure, but we couldn't afford to pay for the support for the legacy infra. And of course, it evolved, it broke, and we couldn't maintain and fix the legacy infra. So we had to avoid any issues and loss of money, because people would retry things that would not be indexed and displayed on the front end, we decided to just stop, avoid any loss or complications for our users, and just focus on rebuilding everything cleanly and safely. And then when everything was available, we relaunched it, actually yesterday. And now everything is back on track. But that means that for every upgrade of the Tezos protocol, you will need to be very careful on what happened and what you will need to change in your infrastructure, and especially with the latest evolution with Jakarta. I think it was Ithaca. Ithaca with the finality. Well, anyway, I don't remember exactly, but when the finality changed, we had a lot of rollbacks and reorganization in the chain. So that means that it's something that was needed to be supported in our indexers to avoid like being in sad chains or having like wrong data in the marketplaces. So that's a lot of things that are critical, but you need to take care of. And as I said earlier, the recommendation, if you want to build it yourself without relying on solutions like the API of Objkt or our Rarible protocol, is reuse as much as possible the tools from the ecosystem. They are very great. And as Arthur mentioned earlier, I think we are probably like the second, or sometimes on some aspects, especially for the indexing, I think we are probably the best chain from the whole blockchain ecosystem. So definitely try to reuse as much as possible. And as fxhash and Objkt also said earlier, it's very easy to discuss with the community. They are very keen to help you whenever you need it. And I know I've been interacting with probably most of the teams from Baking Bad, Taquito, Beacon, and they've all been super helpful and very reactive to help us. So yeah, if you want to launch on that, feel free to rely on them and ask for support. So basically, if you want to build it yourself, all the dark components here are the things that you will need to build and maintain. And the only thing that will be standard is the chain, because that's everyone is relying on that. But that means that you will have to do everything yourself, and that will be extra work. To finish, I will just do a little bit of advertisement for us again. Why you should build on us. It's because, well, we use the same tech stack as you would if you reuse the Rarible protocol. That means it will never go obsolete. It's not a side project that we have and that we just maintain from time to time. It's the exact same technical stack that we use. So we will maintain it. You will benefit from all the evolutions. And there will be things that you will be able to reuse. And it's free and open source. So there are a lot of benefits. As we said earlier, it's also great reduction on the amount of work that you guys need to do if you want to deploy your own marketplace. And the last one, so that's not necessarily for Tezos, but if at some point you want to be on Tezos but other chains, you won't have to change your infrastructure, and everything will be directly available from the Rarible API, our SDK, and indexes. So that's it for me. Thank you very much for your attention.
We have time for 2 questions as well, if anybody would like.
Thanks. A question for Rarible. In terms of indexing the chain, what is the easier chain to index? Like, is there a lot of difference in terms of data structure of the?
So that's a good question, actually. For all the other chains, we built the indexer ourselves without relying on third parties like TZKT, for example. So if you are talking about dev work, I think in that case, Tezos is definitely the easier one because that's where the indexers are the most powerful. So yeah, I would say definitely Tezos because for the rest, yeah, the data on-chain is always different because between chains there are no standards, and every data block model is different. And I would say it would also depend of the different libraries that are available where you can actually use them. But in that case, yeah, just because of the power of the different indexers that we have and the different frameworks, definitely, in my opinion, it Tezos. Maybe the people that are working on Ethereum would differ on that, but in my opinion, yeah, it's much faster to actually build the indexer on Tezos.
Okay, thanks.
All right. If no other questions right now, let's give a big round of one more. 1 second.
Not yet. Just one question: when you have the case where there are several creators on the same piece of art for NFTs, is it possible to have the several artists? Is it possible to index with several artists being co-creators of the same NFT?
Yes, is it me? Yeah, sorry. Yes, completely. There is a collaboration contract. I think the first one was actually the TIA one, and I think now we have one as well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure our contract is multi-artist, and in that case, when you create the token, you declare okay, for this artist, we will distribute X% of the fee, for this artist, X% of. That's the artist when minting the NFT, sorry, that decides that.
Also, there are different ways to handle that. There is a collaboration contract where the fees are sent to the contract itself and then they withdraw. Or you can also have royalty splits if they're implemented by the marketplaces, and we have to agree properly on that as well. But yeah, it's the best way to do it because it's directly sent to the artist when there's a transaction. When you have a collaboration contract in between, you have to withdraw from the contract, and it's another step that you need to take care of all the time.
All right. Thank you all very much. Let's give a big round of applause to Baptiste, Matthieu, and Florian.